Hello, welcome back to our session. Today we are talking about the IAM Identity Center, which is the AWS single sign-on solutions. So we would briefly introduce what is IAM Identity Center and why you should use it as a single sign-on mechanism to allow your users to get access to your AWS organizations. Well, if you are not familiar with the single sign-on, this is a quick introduction for you. And it could be a bit of oversimplified, but the whole idea is to show why we need the single sign-on. So first step is when you are about to build and run the applications on AWS, is normally to get access to your AWS account. So this basically would require you to configure the user's account and password informations across the board. And especially if you need to get access to multiple AWS accounts, then you need to repeat this configuration process across all those accounts. And if you are an organization, most likely you already have the identity provider or the IDP set up. So in this case, you might have the Active Directory sitting on premise, or you might be using the other third-party identity provider to allow you to configure the user information such as usernames, password, and the permissions that they are allowed to get access to what level of the resource. And because you can reuse your existing user identity informations, so basically with the single sign-on solutions, it basically makes the user access really efficient and manageable for your organization. So this is how the SSO or single sign-on can help you for the user authentication and authorization. Next, let's look at the AWS IAM Federation, which is a traditional way that people would configure the single sign-on on AWS. So first, we will have the identity provider configuration on the IAM side, and then we would have the relying party on the IDP, which is the identity provider, and this information will be configured. So such as a user, name, password, and their permissions as we just talked about. And then we will create groups, and with the groups, we would configure the users within those groups just for simplicity of the management. And then lastly, we would configure everything and then to synchronize with the AWS side, so to finalize the single sign-on. On the AWS side, we will also need to configure the IDP or the identity provider. So AWS will understand which IDP that we are using. And also, we need to configure different roles, right? Or the IAM roles. So we can define the permissions, the resource access level for different users or user groups on AWS side. And the key things is if you have multiple accounts within your organization, you need to repeat this IAM identity configuration and the role configuration across those accounts, which is I would say the heavy lifting that you need to duplicate across the board. So is there anything that we can make it easy to onboard our user to get access to multiple AWS accounts within your organizations? Definitely. This is something we can utilize the IAM Identity Center to make things easier. So now hopefully you get some more sense of what is a single sign-on and IAM Identity provider, and also the IAM Federation. So as using the IAM Federation, you have to sort of duplicating the effort to configure the IAM Identity Provider and the user roles across multiple accounts. So we can use IAM Identity Center to try to make it much more easier for you to onboard the users. Because the IAM Identity Center, again, it acts as a central place for you to configure those identity provider and the user role permissions information. So you have one place to set things up, and your users will be able to have the right access to the accounts within your organizations. Now let's look at how the IAM Identity Center work in the brief way. So on the left-hand side, you can see we have a different type of the identity source, right? As we just mentioned about, most likely if you are a large organization, you're already using the Microsoft Active Directory. And if you are small to medium size of the company, maybe you would use the other options such as Okta's or like the other SAML 2.0 compatible solutions as your identity provider. So you manage your users, the password, the permissions, information starting from there. And then with the IAM Identity Center, with those configurations on both ends between the IAM Identity Center and the IDP side, the IAM Identity Center will start to synchronize, and then all the user authentications requests will be able to redirect it from the IAM Identity Center to your IDP that's you configured. So in this case, it makes it easier because the IAM Identity Center actually acting as the central place to managing those user authentication requests across multiple different accounts. So in this case, it makes it really easy for you as the user to get access to the AWS accounts within your organizations, as well as some of the applications that's compatible with SAML 2.0 and supported by the IAM Identity Center. All right, so let's see a demo to showcase how does the IAM Identity Center work. And first and utmost is just for your awareness, for the simplicity to showcase the IAM Identity Center, this demo actually used the IAM local user repository to configure the user information. However, it works in similar way for the user's authentication when you use the external identity provider, as we just discussed. So some of the steps that we will go through in this demo is that we will showcase the users, the groups, permission set creations within the console from your AWS account. And then we will showcase how to utilize the IAM Identity Center API interface to interact with the service automatically. So we can very easily to describe the users in a user group, as we shown up here, and also describe the account application access permissions for a specific user. And last but not least is that we can showcase the impact of changing the user group membership and then see what would be changed in this case. All right. Before we move on, so this is our demo environment. And one of the key concept is the assignment, which we're showing here. And from IAM Identity Center perspective, an assignment is a combination between the accounts, user groups, and the permission set. So I understand this could be a little bit complex at the first glance, but if we try to see in this way, so the assignment basically define what type of users and groups have the access to which AWS accounts within your organizations with what type of permissions and the levels that they have. So hopefully that can make things easier for you to understand, right? Don't worry about that. Let's jump into the demo. But before that, just quickly, again, within this demo, we have 3 AWS accounts as we shown here. And we do have 3 user groups, admin groups, DevOps groups, and the power use groups. And we have these users within each groups. So the user to be noted here is read about Tuan. And this user basically sitting across 2 user groups. And we will be showcasing you that what might be changed, for example, taking the user out of a user group and what might be the impact out of it. And also the permission set, we have 3 different set of the permission set from admin, access, data scientist, and the billing test. And again, each permission set will be associated with a different set of the AWS account on the left-hand side. For example, the admin access would be associated with 3 AWS accounts, meaning that all these 3 AWS accounts would have this permission set. So, and for the other 2 permission set, for example, the data scientist, it only associated with 1 AWS account on the left-hand side, which is our security test account. Okay, let's jump into the demo. And so what I'm sharing with you is that my AWS account console. So let's switch to the user tab. And if we go to the user, right, we would be able to see like 3 users, Tuan, Mr. Dollar, and John Doe, as we shown in the slide just now. And then if we look at the groups, the group to start with is the admin group. Let's click into that and see how many users here. We basically see Mr. Dollar and Tuan here, right? 2 users. And just to correlate to the command line, how to automate things here. So we actually have the command here that we can use to showcase. Let me just do a little bit clean here. So we have a Python wrapper here, which we can also share with you online. And using this command, we basically listing out all the members under the group, the user group of admin group. So we can see the same information as we saw from the console. So simply put is that we can see the Tuan and the other user as Mr. Toller here in the same group, right? And also the other command that we can showcase is that, let's see what type of the list membership that Mr. Toller has. In this case, Mr. Toller only belongs to admin groups, and we can use the same command to see Tuan. And then we can see Tuan actually belongs to 2 user groups. Okay, cool. That's where we start. All right, so one thing to note here is that we basically have a landing page. If we go to the dashboard, because we already set up the IAM Identity Center in this region, US West 2. So it gives us this landing page. And I would open up another browser. This is our another browser. So we will do a user access demo here. And so assume now we are Tuan user, right? And then we go to this page, the landing zone URL, and then it would redirect us to this page. Within this page, we can select what type of account that we actually have access to it. If we click into one of the single account, and then we will see what type of permission set that we are allowed to assume. So in this case, underneath these 2 accounts, we have only one admin permission set that we can assume. And if we go to the last one, which is our security test account, we actually have these 2 permission set associated with this single user, which is Tuan. All right, so what we try to do here is that let's jump back to our management console from the administrator perspective, and then we try to change Tuan's membership. And let's go to DevOps groups, where we will have a Tuan as the user, right? And now if we remove Tuan here, and let's see what will happen. Remove the user from the group. And then if we jump back to this page, and if we refresh the page, let's see. So basically, in the security test account, we are still be able to see the data scientist, the permission set still here. The reason is basically because the Tuan is still like assuming the temporary credential from the IAM Identity Center. So it still be able to see this permission set under this AWS account. But once Tuan sign out from the landing page, and when Tuan is about to sign back in, then this user need to do the authentication again. And then we will see some of the things, interestingly, that would happen. We use the Tuan as the username. We key in our password, and then we will be able to log into our landing page. And now let's see again. All right, so from this case, now we can see the security test account permission set has been updated. Now, Tuan only have the access to this permission set under this account. And if we click into it, for example, let's see. Click this management console URL, and then it will try to redirect us to the AWS account that we just specified. And then it would allow us to assume the admin access as being defined by the permission set. Cool. Let's jump back to here. Basically, just a quick recap. So firstly, we've discussed what is a single sign-on and how it can streamline the user access within your organization. Then we compare the IAM Federation with the AWS IAM Identity Center and shows why it's an efficient way to use the IAM Identity Center for managing the user access. Lastly, we demonstrate how can the users and the group's definitions be modified, managed via the AWS console, and what would be the impact if we remove the user from one of the user group. So hopefully that helps you to make more sense of what does the IAM Identity Center means to you. And hopefully you enjoy this session, and we will see you again next time. Thank you. Bye for now.